Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The moment was one no one in Genoa City could have predicted, the kind of revelation that turns an entire family upside down and forces everyone to question what they once believed to be true. For months, whispers surrounded Claire's mysterious past, who she really was, where she came from, and why shadows always seemed to follow her. The young woman, who had spent most of her life caught between half-truths and painful memories, was about to face the one moment she had dreamed of since childhood but never thought would come true. The air in the Newman living room grew heavy with emotion as Victoria Newman stood frozen, her lips parted, eyes glistening with disbelief, as Claire took hesitant steps toward the man she now knew, without question, was her biological father. The tension that rippled through the room was thick enough to stop hearts, and even Victor Newman himself, the patriarch so used to controlling every situation, seemed momentarily stripped of power. This wasn't a corporate takeover or a clever manipulation. This was family. Raw, real, and devastating. Claire's voice trembled as she whispered his name, Dad, a single word that shattered decades of deception, pain, and separation. The man standing before her, someone Victoria had long considered a ghost from her past, reached out, his eyes wet with a mixture of guilt and awe. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He had spent years haunted by the idea that his daughter was lost forever, taken from him by circumstances too twisted to imagine. Now, as Claire's arms wrapped around him, trembling but certain, time seemed to stop. The warmth of that hug wasn't just a reunion, it was redemption. It was forgiveness. It was two broken souls finding each other again after being torn apart by lies bigger than either of them could control. The room around them blurred, even Victor and Victoria faded into the background as the father and daughter embraced for the first time, hearts finally recognizing what blood had known all along. Victoria, however, stood rooted to the floor, her mind spinning. For months she had believed Claire's story, that she had been manipulated by Jordan, the cunning woman who had posed as her aunt and nearly destroyed the Newman family from within. Victoria had tried to move past it all, to forgive Claire, to help her heal. But this revelation, rewrote everything. She had been lied to, not by Jordan this time, but by fate itself. The man standing before her wasn't just some name from the past. He was someone Victoria had once trusted, someone she had loved, in another lifetime, before everything fell apart. To learn that he was Claire's biological father meant every choice she had made, every sacrifice, had been built on a foundation of lies. The truth was a blade cutting through her heart, sharper with every passing second. As Claire clung to her father, tears streaming freely, Victor's jaw tightened. He had known something was off. He had warned Victoria months ago not to get too close, not to let her guard down, not to trust anyone when it came to Claire's origins. But even he hadn't seen this coming. For the first time in years, Victor Newman was speechless. The revelation that the man before them, a man Victor had once done business with, and later clashed with in one of his legendary rivalries, was Claire's biological father made his stomach twist. He turned to Victoria, watching her expression shift between heartbreak and fury, between motherly instinct and the cold, analytical composure she'd learned from him. The truth had detonated like a bomb in the Newman living room, and there was no putting the pieces back together neatly. "Why didn't you tell me?" Victoria finally managed, her voice shaking as she looked from Claire to the man who had just turned her world upside down. "All this time, you knew?" Her father shook his head slowly, his expression heavy with regret. "I didn't know until recently. I swear to you, Victoria, I didn't. I thought she was gone. I thought I'd lost her forever." His voice cracked on the last word, and for a moment, the stoic businessman, the man who had built empires and buried enemies, looked broken. He looked like a father who had lost everything and suddenly been given one impossible second chance. Victoria's mind raced backward, connecting memories that suddenly made sense in painful clarity. The strange familiarity in Claire's eyes. The way she had instinctively trusted this man when they first crossed paths. The timing of Jordan's manipulations, all of it had been orchestrated to hide the truth. "You mean to tell me," Victoria said through clenched teeth, "that my daughter, my child, has been living her entire life without knowing her real father because of the lies we were all fed?" Her voice rose, trembling with emotion. Claire turned to her mother, her expression pleading. "Mom, please don't be angry. I didn't know either. I found out only days ago. I didn't even believe it until I saw the DNA test results. He didn't abandon me. He didn't even know I existed. Jordan kept everything from him." Her words poured out quickly, desperate for Victoria's understanding. Victoria's breath hitched as she looked into her daughter's tearful eyes. She wanted to believe her, wanted to hold her the way she had when Claire was little and the world was still simple. But how could she, when her entire reality had been rewritten in one cruel twist of fate? "Jordan," Victoria whispered, almost spitting the name like poison. "That woman destroyed our lives in ways we still don't even understand. She took years from us, she took family." Claire nodded, still clutching her father's arm. "But she can't take this away from me anymore," she said softly. "She can't take him away." Victor took a deep breath and stepped forward. His presence filled the room, commanding as ever. "Victoria," he said quietly, "we can't change the past. But we can decide what to do with the truth now." His words were meant to soothe, but they only reignited Victoria's inner turmoil. The truth had come at a devastating cost. She had worked so hard to rebuild her life after the chaos Jordan caused, to give Claire stability, a sense of belonging. And now, in one moment, everything had shifted again. Her daughter was no longer just her daughter, she was a living reminder of a love Victoria had once buried, a chapter she thought she'd closed forever. The man before her, the father Claire now embraced, was someone Victoria had once trusted with her heart, long before she'd become the powerful Newman executive she was today. And seeing him again, seeing him as Claire's father, tore open old wounds that never fully healed. "I need to know everything," Victoria said firmly, turning to him. "When did you find out? How did this happen? Who told you?" He hesitated, glancing at Victor, then back at Victoria. "It started with a call," he said slowly. "A woman contacted me, said she had information about my past. I didn't believe her at first. But she had proof, hospital records, dates, and then, photos. Photos of Claire when she was a baby. Ones I'd never seen. I didn't know what to think until I did my own testing. When the results came back positive," he stopped, his voice catching. "Victoria, I wanted to tell you right away, but I didn't know how. I didn't want to hurt you, not again." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "You already have," she said, her tone trembling but quiet. "You should have come to me first. I had a right to know. I had a right to prepare her, to prepare myself." Claire took a step forward, desperate to stop the emotional unraveling before it went too far. "Mom, please, don't blame him. None of this is his fault. Jordan did this. She kept him from me. She wanted to ruin us, and she almost did. But not anymore. I have my father back. I finally know who I am." The conviction in Claire's voice broke something inside Victoria. The anger softened, replaced by an ache so deep it made her chest tighten. For so long, she had carried guilt, for not being able to protect her daughter from the manipulations of others, for losing her family piece by piece. But now, seeing Claire so certain, so full of emotion, she realized that maybe this was something neither of them could fight. Maybe this was destiny's cruel way of setting things right. Victor, ever the patriarch, finally stepped forward. "Victoria," he said in that low, commanding tone, "family is complicated. Lord knows we've all had our share of mistakes and secrets. But what matters now is that Claire knows the truth. And you have to decide whether you're going to let that truth destroy you or set you free." The words lingered in the air like smoke. Claire looked between her parents, the two people whose love, however fractured, had created her. For the first time, she didn't feel like a pawn in someone else's game. She felt whole. Complete. The emptiness she'd carried her entire life was gone, replaced by the steady beat of something real, family. As the tension began to ease, Claire reached out, taking Victoria's hand and pulling her closer. "Mom," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I still need you. Nothing changes that. I finally have both of you now. Please don't make me choose." Victoria's tears finally spilled over, her composure cracking. She nodded, barely able to speak. "You don't have to choose, sweetheart," she said softly. "You never will." She looked at the man who had turned her world inside out and added, "But we have a lot to talk about. A lot to make right." And as the family stood there, 3 generations of Newmans watching history rewrite itself, the sun began to dip outside, casting golden light through the tall windows of the Newman ranch. The glow fell across Claire and her father, still holding on to each other as if afraid to let go. For years, their connection had been buried beneath secrets and lies. But now, in this fragile, powerful moment, the truth had finally set them free. The future was uncertain, it always was with the Newmans, but one thing was clear: no lie, no betrayal, no enemy could ever again erase the bond forged that day between a father and his daughter. And though Victoria's heart still ached, a small part of her, the part that had once believed in love and miracles, whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. Something healing. Something real. The silence that settled over the Newman ranch after the revelation was deafening. The walls that had witnessed decades of family battles seemed to tremble under the weight of another devastating truth. Claire, still holding her father's hand, looked between her parents, the mother she had loved and feared losing, and the father she had just found. The emotion in the room was almost unbearable. It was the kind of tension that could either shatter a family or force it to rebuild stronger than before. Victoria Newman, usually the embodiment of control, felt her composure slipping through her fingers. Her throat burned, her mind spinning in a million directions. She had faced corporate wars, public scandals, and romantic betrayals, but nothing, had prepared her for this. She turned slowly toward her father, Victor Newman, the man whose word once dictated the course of her life. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steel. "You knew, didn't you?" she said quietly, her tone sharp with accusation. Victor's brow furrowed. "Victoria. Don't." She raised a trembling hand, her voice breaking. "Don't you dare act like you didn't know something. You've been too quiet, too calm. You had people looking into Claire's past for months. You had your investigators digging through every file, every lead. Are you seriously going to stand there and tell me you didn't know?" Victor's silence said everything. He exhaled slowly, his jaw tightening as he glanced toward the man now revealed as Claire's biological father. There was a glint of guilt in Victor's eyes, faint, but unmistakable. Claire's breath caught in her throat, her gaze snapping to her grandfather. "You knew," she whispered, tears threatening again. Victor shifted uncomfortably. "I suspected," he admitted finally, his deep voice filled with weariness. "I didn't have proof. Not until recently." Victoria took a step closer, her disbelief turning into fury. "And you didn't think to tell me? You didn't think I had a right to know the truth about my own daughter's father?" "I was protecting you," Victor said firmly, meeting her gaze with that trademark Newman authority. "You've been through enough, Victoria. I wasn't going to bring another ghost from your past into your life until I was certain." "Protecting me?" she snapped. "You don't get to decide that anymore. You don't get to decide what I can or can't handle. You've been doing that my entire life, controlling every move I make, every person I love, every choice that should have been mine. You didn't protect me, Dad. You manipulated me." Victor's expression hardened, his pride refusing to let him crumble. "You call it manipulation. I call it doing what was necessary to keep this family together. You've always been impulsive when it comes to the people you care about, Victoria. You let your heart make decisions your head should have stopped." Claire, standing between them, felt the storm brewing and stepped forward. "Please, stop fighting. This isn't about control or business or the past. It's about the truth. I finally know who I am. Don't ruin that for me. But neither Newman backed down easily. The tension between father and daughter was decades old, steeped in old wounds and buried resentment. Victor had always been Victoria's greatest protector and her greatest challenge, the man she admired most and the one she could never fully forgive. Her voice broke as she continued. You should have trusted me with this. You should have told me the second you suspected anything. Instead, you let me walk around this house thinking the past was behind me, while you sat there, knowing that the man who changed everything for me years ago was walking around, looking for the daughter I've been fighting to save. Victor's deep sigh filled the room. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to see you suffer like this again? I kept quiet because I needed to be sure. Because once this truth came out, there was no going back. Look around you, Victoria, look at what it's already done. Claire's father, still struggling to process the emotional chaos of the moment, stepped forward. He's right, he said softly. Victor and I have both made mistakes. But what matters now is Claire. We can't undo what's been done, but we can give her what she's been missing, a family that isn't built on secrets anymore. Victoria turned to him, eyes blazing. You don't get to talk about family, she said, her tone sharp. You disappeared. You left me, left us, when everything fell apart. I buried that part of my life, and now you're standing here, claiming fatherhood as if those years didn't happen. He flinched, the words cutting deep. You think I wanted to leave? He said, voice cracking. You think I didn't fight for you? Your father made sure I stayed away. He made it clear that I'd never be part of your life again. All eyes turned to Victor. For once, the great patriarch seemed momentarily cornered. His silence was confirmation enough. Victoria's gasp echoed in the room. You did what? Victor's expression was unreadable, but his tone was firm. You were young. You were hurting. I wasn't going to let you ruin your life with someone who couldn't protect you. You needed stability, not chaos. Stability? Victoria repeated, incredulous. You stole my future. You stole my daughter's father from her. You don't get to justify that. For the first time, the room trembled not from anger but from heartbreak. Claire looked between them, her world spinning. So that's why, she said softly. That's why everything was taken from me. Because of pride. Victor stepped forward, his tone softening. Claire, I never wanted to hurt you. I did what I thought was best for your mother. Everything I've ever done, right or wrong, was for this family. But Claire's eyes filled with tears. Sometimes, the things you do for family end up destroying it, she whispered. Her words struck everyone silent. Even Victor, the man who had faced down corporate titans and personal enemies alike, looked momentarily shaken. Victoria's anger wavered, replaced by a deep sadness that pulled her shoulders down. She's right, Victoria said quietly. We've all done things in the name of love that ended up costing us everything. The room fell into a long, heavy quiet. The crackling fire was the only sound, its flames flickering like ghosts of the past. Claire's father moved closer to Victoria, his voice barely above a whisper. I never stopped loving you, you know. Even after everything. Losing you broke me. And if I had known Claire existed, if I had known she was ours, I would have moved heaven and earth to find her. Victoria's eyes glistened with tears she couldn't hold back anymore. And now that you've found her? She asked softly. What do you want? He hesitated, glancing at Claire before answering. A chance. That's all. A chance to be her father, not to replace you, not to erase the past, just to make things right before it's too late. Victoria nodded slowly, her heart torn between forgiveness and fury. You'll have to earn that, she said finally. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that love without trust doesn't last. Claire stepped between them, her voice trembling but determined. Then maybe we can start with trust now, she said. Maybe this is our chance to do things differently. No more lies. No more half-truths. Just, us. Victor watched them, his expression unreadable, his emotions carefully guarded behind that stoic mask he had perfected over the years. But inside, even he couldn't deny the flicker of pride he felt for his granddaughter's courage. She had inherited the Newman strength, and the Newman fire, but also something gentler, something pure. As the family slowly began to talk, really talk, the air shifted. The confrontation had unearthed more pain than anyone had expected, but it had also cracked open something that had been sealed too tightly for too long. Secrets had always been the Newman legacy, but perhaps now, finally, they were ready for something new. Later that night, as the others drifted into uneasy silence, Victoria stood alone in the dimly lit study. She stared out the window, her reflection ghosting back at her in the glass, a woman torn between